We dive into 1980s bang for your buck and then look at the Nazi origins of Volkswagen, the release of the Mazda Cosmo, Porsche's upgraded Cayenne for 2024, and the original Volvo sports car. Plus, is the Fox Body cool? All that and so much more coming your way right now.
It's time to cruise the highways and byways of the auto industry's past, present, and future. Join us in exploring the vehicles, people, events, and places that have shaped the way we move. This is the Drive History Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Drive History Podcast. I'm Brian Corey, and there's Jordan Stead.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? I decided to not scream this time.
Oh, I kind of liked it.
I know, I kind of did too, but then I was editing it, and I was listening to it, and it shocked me, so I can only imagine what listeners thought.
That's why everybody turned it off at 1 minute and 12 seconds.
Exactly. Sorry about that. We're back. It's more chill today, but I'm sure there's going to be a hot take or two.
It is a Saturday morning. It's a bit gloomy out. That's not going to keep the energy down too much.
That's right.
We're jacked up on some coffee.
Let's bring the heat right now.
Hit it.
I have no news for you, aside from the fact that I was wagon shopping this week. And just like every week, it seems, I was very close to a vehicle purchase. And on the way to that vehicle purchase, I got a flat tire on my old piece of shit Subaru that you all have heard so much about.
It's a beautiful
2002? 4? I just forgot. I think it's an 04. Yeah, I think it's a 2004. Yes, it's 2004. Anyway,
2000 Forester.
That's right. That's right. What I discovered, which is probably obvious to a lot of people who have all-wheel drive cars, is the spare tire that comes with an all-wheel drive car is a full-size tire and wheel, unlike the little skinny boys that come on other vehicles.
Right.
I didn't know that, and so when I put the other wheel and tire on the car, I realized how much cooler the Steelies that come with old Subarus look than any other wheel that comes on a Subaru. So now I'm kind of just wishing that I had 3 other flat tires and 3 other Steelies to custom modify this Forester with.
So if anybody wants to trade your spare for one of Jordan's normal tires, I think he's open to wheeling and dealing.
I'm way open to it. Let's do it. Strike a deal with me. Let's do it.
I mean, the Steely thing is pretty hot. The base model Ford Maverick comes with Steelies.
You're right. And that is the one that looks the coolest, I think.
I think so, too. And it's also the cheapest, which is my favorite.
Cheapest, quote unquote. Yeah.
If you can find one.
True.
Anyway, I hope you find your tires.
I know. Me too.
Well, it seems like we got some reader questions.
Hit me. What do we got?
Chris P. asks, why do people think Fox body Mustangs are cool now?
What do you think?
I would chalk it up to a bit of nostalgia.
Yeah.
People like us, we're coming into the age where we have disposable income and we can buy the cars from our childhood and the cars that our dad had or that we saw in the high school parking lot or that kind of thing. And so finding a Fox body, particularly a 5.0 or a GT, something a little more fun, is of interest to the new car collectors or the new enthusiasts, I would say. Plus, it's, I think, a fun car to drive. I've never actually driven one. I've ridden in one 5.0 Mustang from the 80s.
Yeah.
And my buddy Brandon pulled it out of the weeds from behind my house at a neighbor's house. Hadn't run in several years. He's a mechanical genius type. Had it going in like 3 hours and was ripping that thing so hard through Ballard in the Seattle neighborhood. It really made me kind of want one for about 38 seconds. And this was 8 years ago. So
there you go.
Never happened though.
Probably had all of 140 horsepower?
It felt like 147.
Yeah, I'm with you on the nostalgia factor. I also would chalk it up. I bet Fox bodies have this going for it. You don't see a lot of them.
It's true.
And I think when you see a lot of certain cars all the time, or you get used to seeing certain generations of cars, especially as we get further away from that generation, they just become less special, sort of inherently special because you see them all the time.
True.
Fox body, you don't see them very often. I would say, in my opinion, in my life, they seem rare to me. And that's because a lot of them just didn't survive, for one. But I just saw one the other day in Bellingham, and it was beautiful. It's mint. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. This feels like a rare, fun, historical car to have seen. Whereas, how many times have we seen a 2012 Mustang GT, right?
Right, totally. I feel like there's a sweet spot when it comes to buying older cars in which the value dips, but the interest begins to rise.
Yep.
And maybe we're there. I think the Fox body Mustangs have perhaps peaked even. Maybe not. Maybe they'll go up some more, but there was times recently that I've seen them sell for $40,000+.
Yeah.
And that's insane to me.
Yeah, totally.
For a 1980s anything.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah. And I guess the weird moment about Fox bodies there is that Fox bodies are outside of what I call like the 20-year swing of cool, right? 20 years goes by and suddenly the thing that was uncool for 10 to 15 years after it was cool for the first 5 is suddenly cool again. Obviously the 80s were a long time ago, early 90s were a long time ago, way outside of the 20-year swing, but they are kind of holding on to something more. And I say that because Carrie, who was on the podcast recently, has that early 2000s Mustang,
right?
That for a long time, I don't think a lot of people thought was cool, right? For the past 10 years. Now you're starting to see interest for those Mustangs pick up right now. So those early 2000s are getting the love that they haven't had for a while. So yeah, I guess, Fox body nostalgia, maybe rarity. And they're just kind of weird and quirky. Totally. It is different. It's very different from any other Mustang.
Absolutely. Yeah. I kind of like them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put anybody down for snagging one.
Would you pay $30,000 for a mint
Absolutely
one?
Not. I wouldn't pay $3,000 for a mint one.
Fair enough. Well, speaking of that, we had another reader question, which was, what is basically the best 1980s vehicle that's bang for your buck right now? What do you guys think?
That's a good question too. I mean, honestly, if you can find a good deal on a Fox body Mustang, I think that is one. I think that they can be fun, especially if you get a convertible and a 5-speed.
Yes.
Like, why not?
Totally.
My other thoughts on this, I thought VW had some good options in the 80s with the Scirocco and the Rabbit, or if you can find like a Jetta GTI. And then Chrysler had a bunch of Shelby cars, which were actually designed to compete with the 5.0 Mustangs.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And they kind of have a similar appearance, honestly, but the Dodge Shelby Charger would be kind of a fun car, and you can find those for like $4,000.
Yeah.
And they have about the same power output as a Fox body, the higher optioned Fox bodies of the time.
I guess bang for your buck wise, I don't know how many bucks we're talking here, but like I've always loved the Nissan 300ZX.
Oh, yeah.
The Toyota Supra Mark III is an interesting
There you go.
model as well, right? Everyone talks about the Mark IV. Mark III is really cool. And there's one actually nearby me in a field, and every time I walk by it, I think, what's going on there?
Uh-oh.
But yeah, they're really cool. And then the Camaro IROC Z.
Oh, yeah, totally. Those are fun cars, and they're not crazy expensive or anything either.
Yeah.
I think they're stylish. I was living in Chicago, and my neighbor in the apartment building that I was in had one from the 80s, and he just cut the roof off. He's like, I wanted a convertible, I couldn't find one, so I just cut the roof off.
Like a Sawzall cut it off?
Basically. Yeah, and he just ripped it. It was just his summertime cruiser.
Love that. More power to you.
Right.
It's amazing.
So yeah, I do think that there's some good options out there. And, it's the Radwood era, I think is what people are coining as the 80s these days. So things are going up in value, especially like trucks and SUVs. It seems like I can't believe like a Toyota 4x4 is $50,000. For a nice one.
Yeah, whether it's 25 years old or it's brand new.
Right.
Yeah.
It's insane. But yeah, there's definitely things to be had.
100%.
All right. So later on, we're going to reveal what people thought would be the worst car to buy their enemy. We got some kind of loosey-goosey answers on this, but we'll put them out there.
Funny nonetheless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So stay tuned till later in the episode when we reveal that. And this all throws back to last episode when I was prompting Brian, what would be the car that you would doom your worst enemy to for the rest of their lives?
And we'll still take your answers.
Yes. Please send them along always. Let's jump into a little history, yeah?
Let's do it. So this episode, we are covering May 28th through June 3rd, and we're starting off in 1937. Volkswagen is founded by none other than Adolf Hitler. In reality, it was a creation of the German Labor Front, which of course was a segment of the Nazi Party, And the whole idea behind the brand, which saw Ferdinand Porsche design the iconic Beetle, originally known as the Type 1, was to develop an affordable, reliable vehicle for the German people, and Volkswagen, of course, translates to people's car. I think what they set out to do is a good idea. Germany was post-World War I at that point, broke, didn't really have any sort of affordable vehicle. Mercedes, Maybach, these were all cars that were available to the rich folk of Germany at the time, I suppose. I just let you yeah, there wasn't really an option for the everyday man, and it didn't really take off until after the war. You know, the Volkswagen factory was used to produce a limited quantity of the original Type 1s, and then it went into wartime production, creating the Kubelwagens and the other military vehicles of the time, and it ended up getting bombed out, and the assembly lines just were never quite up to speed. Fast forward to 1945, the wars ended, and the British and the English, or the British and the Americans and the Russians are all in Germany, and a British officer comes into the Volkswagen factory and finds that they're still producing a limited quantity of the Type 1. Miraculously, even though there's holes in the roof, some of the machinery has been damaged, but they had the workers, who were mostly forced labor workers, had hidden the machinery during bombing raids literally in the woods outside the factory. And they brought it back in, set it back up, and just started pumping these cars out one at a time with like limited material, limited quantities. And so it was Ivan Hurst, who was a British officer, saw that this could be a good like rebuilding opportunity for Germany.
Interesting.
And just got things moving again.
Wow.
So once a speck in Hitler's eye, soon became a smile to the world.
I wonder why the forced labor workers hid the machinery.
That's a great question. I do know they just didn't stop making them because nobody told them not to.
Right. Yeah.
They just kept doing it.
Damn. Huh. It is kind of like the cockroach of cars, I suppose.
Yeah.
They're just everywhere.
They are. And it only took a few years before they were literally all over the world. And Heinrich Nordhoff was the German officer who took over the factory once the British left. Like, they handed back everything to the German government. And Heinrich Nordhoff kind of oversaw the expansion. And then Max Hoffmann, who was a famous Dutch importer-exporter, responsible for a number of cars, really helped them take it to the U.S. and to Africa and to Australia and all these different places. And he actually also drew the original plans for the Volkswagen Type 2 bus on a napkin, just a small little scarab-shaped van.
Wow.
And there we go.
There you go. Dang. I was just remembering that obviously Volkswagen translates to people's car. I remember after the Dieselgate situation, there was all these buyback programs, right, for people who had bought vehicles that were affected by this. And there were a couple of cars during that time in the kind of mid-20 teens that were given what VW called the people's warranty. And it was this especially long warranty. It was like 75,000 miles and 6 years or something like that. And I know this because of my all-track and sport wagon hunting that I've officially been done with now. But
tired of taking showers in your car?
I'm tired of taking showers in the car that I would have bought. More on that later. But yeah, they called the people's warranty. It's just interesting. They're like continuing to carry forward this like meaning and just historical. It's a little icky. It's a little close. It's a little too close.
I don't know that I like that.
For comfort. Yeah.
This is what I was just laughing at because Jordan just put in our notes, the people's warranty.
Yeah.
And gave me a chuckle.
Yeah, well, like we should maybe try to like, I don't know, remove any sort of thing that we possibly can from any sort of Hitler things at all. You know, I don't know. That would just be like a PR 101 move, but I'm just saying. It
is wild that this thing born out of the Nazi party is still like honestly the biggest automaker in the world, maybe behind Toyota. I don't even know at this point.
And they own everything.
They own everything. Yeah, but here we are. And funny enough, in the 1950s, they had these like crazy marketing materials that would run in all sorts of magazines, particularly in the US. And it was all done by a Jewish advertising company.
Huh.
So kind of full circle. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that not? That's
I don't know.
I don't know what you call that.
Yeah. Things are a little too close for comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, May 28, 2013, Bill Bruck, the founder of Infiniti, dies.
Rip.
He was the first general manager when Infiniti brand launched in the U.S. in 1989, and then it set out to conquer the global markets, and is widely credited with introducing Infiniti's concept of the total ownership experience, which kind of revolutionized the industry at the time, which included the Infiniti courtesy vehicles, roadside assistance, trip interruption benefits, Infiniti financial services, repeat customer incentives, and service and maintenance. I feel like that's all so standard now.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was such a lumped together thing for Infiniti at the time and how groundbreaking that was. Yeah, shout out to the man who brought the G35 to the people. God, I love G35s. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if there's 9 owners and they're clapped out and they're like the cheapest drift body you can buy. I've always loved a G35. I think they're cool, and I've always liked the design too. I think they've aged well. And he joined Nissan, of course, the Infiniti's parent company, in 1982, and retired from the company in 1999.
Not a bad career.
Yeah, for real.
2012. So we're actually, I think we did this backwards. Whoops.
That's okay.
Oh my gosh, we're off the timeline. What's going to happen? It's the end of the world. May 28th, 2012, Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG Roadster is announced. Why don't you take the lead on this one?
Yeah, for sure. The highlights of the 2012 SLS AMG was an aluminum space frame body, an AMG 6.3-liter V8 front mid-engine with dry sump lubrication, developing a peak output of 563 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. It had a 7-speed dual-clutch transaxle transmission and a sport suspension with aluminum double wishbones. And the bummer here, though, is that there's no gull wing doors, you know?
Womp. It doesn't fly.
Iconic situation.
Do they make a gull-wing coupe now?
No.
Man,
But you know who does? Tesla.
Oh, right.
I'm like, come on. If Tesla can do it on a dumb SUV, obviously the SLS should have had it.
That was such a weird choice by Tesla.
Yeah, it does make sense when you see how little room it takes up when it goes up.
Yeah.
The problem is, though, I think about this all the time. I was in downtown Seattle the other day running an errand, and I was parking in an underground garage in like a big skyscraper. Not only was I completely terrified for everyone who had a car that was bigger than a GTI in there, which is most people these days, right?
Right.
There's like $100,000 trucks parked in there, and there is literally a half an inch of space from the top of the car. And that's where the gull-wing falls short. Is it's like they need so much room to go up,
Right.
as opposed to side by side.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know. I feel like you probably want more room side to side on the day-to-day basis, but still, like, you literally would not be able to get out of your gull-wing door car if you were in this parking lot I was in the other day. Just straight up, you couldn't do it. You'd be stuck in the car. You'd have to park outside to be able to
Just
go
like
into the
getting
building.
out the trunk.
Yeah. So bizarre. But yeah, I mean, beautiful car for sure. One of those like brutal, gentlemanly cruiser GT style vehicles. Iconic.
560 horsepower in 2012 is very respectable.
For sure. And those things sound crazy cool. Yeah. And they had a, obviously it's the Roadster, so it had the soft top that opens and closes in 11 seconds. And you could even do that while the car was traveling at up to 31 miles per hour, which just seems to be, I don't know if that's a great idea, but hey, it's kind of cool. I'd probably just be lifting and putting that thing back constantly as I was driving on the road.
Just wiring the motor out.
Yeah, you're just waving it at people on the road. Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's what, instead of like Mazda Miata owners like flashing their lights,
Right.
if you got one of these, you just put the top up and down.
Yeah,
when
it's the
another one drives
SLS
by.
wave. Yeah.
I love it. 2014, Google announced plans for a driverless car that would have no steering wheel or pedals. All right, it's 10 years later. Where are we at, Jordan?
Well, I didn't know, so I looked it up because Google's really good at coming up with really big, bold ideas, announcing it, and then immediately canceling it or just letting it sort of fade into history. So that's a Google thing. But I didn't know the answer, so I looked it up. And they have Waymo now. And Waymo is this company that's on a mission to be the world's most trusted driver. making it safer, more accessible, and more sustainable to get around without the need for anyone in the driver's seat.
Well, Waymo's the grocery delivery carts in LA that are everywhere.
Really?
Yeah, they are literally just little carts that drive around, all automated. Go to a grocery store. I assume somebody at the store puts whatever your order is in, and it goes to your house. And they are everywhere, and they're terrifying because they have like human eyes on them that like blink at you, and it has like a smile. And I think it's all done so that it deters people from messing with it.
Oh, for sure.
You know, because it's like, oh, it's got a face. Like, I'm not gonna kick it in the face.
Yeah.
I guess that's worked mostly.
I wonder if that works.
Maybe we should just put more faces on our cars.
Yeah, true. So here's a little bit of the history. So in fall 2015, Google provided the world's first fully driverless ride on public roads. And then in December 2016, the project was renamed Waymo and spun off of Google as part of Alphabet. In October 2020, Waymo became the first company to offer service to the public without safety drivers in the vehicle. And Waymo currently operates commercial robo-taxi services around the U.S.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess this is the hot take of the episode. Is there anything more chaotically boring than autonomous driving? It just is so boring. Maybe this is just my personal opinion. I don't know anybody that wants to get into a vehicle and have no input at all.
It does seem terrifying. It also, I mean, if every car was doing it, I'd be okay with it.
Yes, this is exactly the thing, right? If everything's autonomous, which also sounds incredibly boring, right? But at least maybe safer in some capacity. I'm not worried so much about the autonomous car. Well, I am, but I'm also worried about how it's playing with all these other idiots on the road and a dog running across the street. And yeah, I know the amount of technology here is crazy in these things, but if you want to ride an autonomous vehicle, at least autonomous for you, get on a fucking train, dude. get on a bus or take a taxi. Like, that's autonomous for you.
That's good enough.
It's fine.
Yeah.
People can still keep their jobs. They can these things will get you from A to B. If you're that boring that you just need an A to B and you don't even want to touch anything or think about it, like, keep people employed.
Call an Uber.
Yeah, my God. It's just unreal. And also, can we just have...
That's a great point.
Yeah, can we just have one thing that's not completely overly saturated with billionaire tech? Like, I was watching the Waymo video that was introducing how the cars work, and they have this video on their site, which is like super PR-y, corporate friendly, as it would.
Yeah.
They've got like a Jaguar I-Pace driving through San Francisco with like 1,000 gigantic cameras attached all over it. So it looks dumb as hell, right, to begin with. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, God, this is so much fucking energy and money spent on something that is so unnecessary. We could have dumped 1 iota of this money into cancer research and been so much better off. Truth.
But if we cure cancer, the cancer companies will be broke.
This is true. Yeah, so it makes sense. But anyway, I don't know. It just feels like one of those things where it's just so much energy and money being put into this thing that I'm like, I don't see the value.
Well, what was Apple's thing? Like, they spent $25 billion or $250 billion or whatever it was, and then they're just like, nah, we're done. We're not going to do the anonymous car thing anymore.
Yeah, and I bet you anything that it came down to what is the juice worth the squeeze at the end of the day. I bet that's what it was.
Fair.
Now, an autonomous cargo truck that's on its own track off of the road delivering cross-country stuff around, aka a train, but like a network like that autonomously, okay, I can understand that. But do you really need an autonomous taxi or your own vehicle driving you through the streets of New York City to go pick up a roll of toilet paper at the bodega? Come on, like, walk to the bodega for one,
right?
Or just like get used to exerting just an iota of thinking and energy when you want to do something.
I agree with you. 100% on this.
Yeah, I'm bored. It's just boring. And also, my wife made a great point. She goes, "This sounds." Put on your tin hat, everybody. My wife goes, "It sounds like a great way to assassinate someone intentionally." Like, imagine if there was a foreign dignitary coming to the country and you wanted to off them. All you do is put it into an autonomous vehicle, and then you just like code the vehicle to drive off a bridge, and then just blame it on tech.
This is the next James Bond movie.
Totally. But it's so fucking boring. What a boring James Bond movie.
What happened?
Yeah.
He got in the autonomous Aston Martin and it drove off a cliff.
Yeah. So anyway, it's stupid. It's boring. It's too expensive. I don't believe anyone aside from really boring people want fully autonomous cars. Just going to throw that out there.
Well, most people who use cars are not into cars for the car reasons.
Yeah, although, I agree, right? But I do think there's a difference between getting into a car and having like a leisurely drive where you're not really, you're not shifting gears, you're not thinking about all this other stuff, and you got one finger on the wheel and you're driving. Mm-hmm. I think there's a huge difference between a very chill drive where you exert very little energy versus one where you're sitting in the back seat of a car and you're seeing the wheel turning by itself and you're zipping through traffic and you're thinking, I'm going to die at any possible second here. I don't think that's as relaxing as you think it is.
That's fair. Yeah, make sure to take your blood pressure medication before any of those trips.
Exactly. Anyway, to add on to this, by July 2015, Google's 23 self-driving cars had been involved in 14 minor collisions on public roads.
Perfect.
Google maintained that but in one case, the vehicle was not at fault because cars were either driven manually or the driver of another vehicle was at fault. In July 2021, the NHTSA had found 150 crashes from Waymo.
That's not insignificant.
Yeah, well, they claim it is comparatively. But anyway, a Waymo robo-taxi killed a dog in San Francisco while in autonomous mode in May 2023. In February 2024, a driverless Waymo robo-taxi struck a cyclist in San Francisco. And then in the same month, Waymo issued recalls for 444 of its vehicles after 2 of them hit the same truck being towed on a highway. I'm wondering if they meant the same model truck or if they meant that some poor soul was driving a truck and 2 different Waymo cars hit the same
Oh my
truck.
God.
Anyway, hopefully that wasn't the case. And not to like shit on this, but I mean, I still think it's dumb, but it's just kind of proves a little bit of the point where it's like, I don't know, is it really that much safer? I don't think so. And in this weird other element, in 2023, there was kind of this San Francisco group, I'm not going to say their name, but they used a practice called coning to trap Waymo cars with traffic cones as a form of protest after claiming that the cars had been involved in too many incidents. And in 2024, Lunar New Year in San Francisco, protesters attacked, graffitied, and set fire to a Waymo car. No one was injured. It's just bizarre. And like, this is such a fringe piece of technology. It's so early and it's so small, and this is already what's happening. That's what's worrying to me.
Yeah, sure. But is it one of those things that we'll just get used to? Or is it we're just like suffering from this early onset?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, if you think about it, it's 2024 at the time of this recording. This has been going on for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And really, has it come that far? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it to me.
No, you're right.
I don't know.
You're right.
But, keep strapping LiDAR cameras to all this shit. It'll get better.
Well, I was curious. I had to look. So Waymo doesn't make its own cars. They just make the technology and put it on other cars.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes more sense. It looks like they do use Jaguars particularly.
They've used a bunch of cars over the years, and they just are using that one right now.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, again, what they're really doing is they're not trying to sell cars. They're trying to sell technology, right? Which I understand. Also, I know this probably wouldn't be their final state, is you wouldn't just buy 1 million LiDAR cameras and attach it to your own car. But man, imagine buying your brand new SLS Roadster, and you're like, God, look at the lines in this thing. And then the next thing you do is you take 30 weird box-shaped cameras and just start gluing it all over your $500,000 Mercedes Roadster.
Check out this Roadster that's so fun to drive that I don't have to drive.
Yeah, not only can I tell that you're lazy as shit, but you also have zero design sense. You're just strapping cameras all over your brand new car that you just bought. Anyway, moving on, because I could rant on this all day.
I can tell. Well, speaking of cars that could probably benefit from autonomous driving, on May 29th, 2018, driving a Toyota Camry, NASCAR driver Kyle Busch took the checkers at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And in doing so, he set a new record in NASCAR, becoming the first driver to win on every active NASCAR Cup Series track, which at the time was 23 different race courses. That's pretty cool. NASCAR's been around for 60, 70 years, and to finally have somebody win on all of them during their active lifespan, I give him props.
And in a Camry, no less.
Right. I don't know if he was driving a Camry for every win, but hey, shout out.
And it wasn't stock.
Shout out to Yeah, not at all.
Don't get too excited.
Keeping on the race theme, May 30th, 1911, Ray Harone wins the inaugural Indianapolis 500. And how he did so is kind of interesting. At the time, I don't know if you've ever seen kind of brass air car racing, but there would always be a riding mechanic, tuning the car, making sure the brakes are working, keeping things lubricated. And he did not use that, so already up a leg in terms of weight. And he was also the first person to use a rear view mirror. Because the riding mechanic would also be the person like looking behind you, telling you who's coming up and like how to drive.
It's like half rally car assistant, half mechanic, half
mirror.
Yeah. I wonder if this was part of Infiniti's total ownership experience.
Yeah, you just get some guy in the passenger seat. But he took the checkers at the very first Indy 500. That's one motorsport event that I think would be fun to go to at some point in my life. That same year, same day, May 30th, 1967, Mazda launches the Cosmo, the first two-rotor rotary engine production car, featuring the Mazda Wankel, which paved the way for the brand's forward-thinking antics in terms of what came under the hood. This car was hand-built, and a total of about one per day rolled out of the factory between 1967 and 1972, leading to a total production of 1,175. They continued to use the name on a variety of other Mazda cars up until 1996, including the Unos Cosmo. And this thing is a really interesting kind of shape. Would you call those wheels steely? Esque anyway?
Yeah, totally steely.
But the cockpit is mounted very central in this vehicle. I feel like the bonnet and the trunk lid the hood and the trunk are of equal length and distance from where the driver sits.
Yeah, it's a very long, low, wide car.
Two-seater.
With some interesting steelies on it. It's got a really beautiful line. I love the line on the side. It has two lines on the side that kind of carry you through the bodywork from front to back.
Right.
What kind of animal does it look like to you?
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm getting tree frog from the front.
I was going to say one of those like mudfish.
There you go. Yeah, it's kind of stepped on. It almost looks a little bit squished from the top. Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, because the elongated headlight like louvers or covers give it kind of this like droopy look.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks fun.
It does look fun. Yeah, it's very, super iconic looking car. Iconic shape.
There might be one coming to the car museum in Tacoma where I spend a few of my days.
Ooh, like that.
For part of their Japanese car exhibit.
Nice. We need to get you behind the wheel of some of those bad boys in there.
Yeah, well, none of them move for months at a time. They're just pretty to look at.
Truth.
However, hopefully we'll be getting behind the wheel of some of these JDM cars thanks to Mr. Dylan Kane over at the Import Guys.
Yes, stay tuned, guys.
All right, May 31st, 2023, Porsche unveils the all-new 2024 Cayenne, which had originally been introduced in 2002, and it marked Porsche's entry into the SUV market. The all-new edition was really just part of the current generation, the E3, the third generation of the Cayenne. But this one received an extensive facelift and a number of other refreshments, including upping the base 3.0-liter V6 by 13 horsepower. And I think the most interesting part, the Cayenne S got a V8 engine again, right?
Yes.
Which made 469 horsepower, 34 more than the previous S version, which boasted a twin-turbo V6.
The Cayenne and the BMW X5 are really completely responsible for the SUV-ification of the world, I think. Like the X5 in particular, I think, even more so. But you can't go anywhere without seeing Cayennes, Macans, and X5s everywhere you go to this day. And they're so expensive and they're so cool, but they're also just so common. And it's amazing that many people opt in for that kind of a car. I mean, they're cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure they're fun to drive and I'm sure they're luxurious, but it's not a cheap car. And you see them so widely adopted. There must be a lot of people living on some wild debt. That's for sure.
That's true. And I'm surprised it wasn't too long ago that I got picked up in one of these as an Uber. It's
Oh, cool.
What are you?
Yeah, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Are you okay?
Yeah. Did you buy this just to Uber in it? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But some of those, the older ones, I mean, you can get a good deal on like the first generation ones, I feel like. These
And
days.
they made them for a brief period of time. They made a Cayenne with a V8 and a manual.
Ooh.
Yeah. Super rare, super weird. Same with the X5, actually. You could buy a manual X5 with V8.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Give me one.
Yeah. And side note, the 2024, maybe 2025 Porsche Macan all electric is coming. And I'm only mentioning this because my mother-in-law is thinking about retiring soonish, and I've been angling for years to get her to drive and buy an electric Macan. So stay tuned on that if I can turn the tide here for us all, and I can report to you on how fast it really is.
Yeah, that's not a bad retirement gift.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Dang. June 1st, 1905. Emile Delahaye, the founder of Paris-based Delahaye Automobiles, died at the age of 62. He founded the company in 1894, and he would survive until his death, going on to produce some of the most stunning Art Deco vehicles of the 1930s. And I believe cars remained in production up through the 50s. These cars really are stunning. I think they're some of the most iconic, beautiful, absolute, just stunning works of art from the 1930s in terms of automobiles. The lines flow like at a time, and everything was so super boxy. The use of chrome accents on it just like draws your eyes from front to back. Like, it looks like it's going so fast and it's not moving.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous looking car. It's got that Cruella de Vil thing going on yet again. Maybe I'm just, again, caveman brain, but that's just the way I think when I see any car from this era. It's just so 101 Dalmatians Cruella de Vil for me.
We just watched the new Cruella movie.
It's good.
It's actually really good.
I liked it.
And there's some good cars in it too.
Yes. Yeah. You know, I'm wondering when chrome is going to be cool again, because obviously chrome was cool then. Chrome was allegedly cool in the late 90s, early 2000s Pimp My Ride era.
Right.
And if we're talking about 20-year swings, we're there. So I'm waiting to see chrome come back in full swing. I have seen some like drift stuff, like drift car stuff, where the wheels are chrome, and people are like kind of talking about that as like a cool thing. Like, check out these all chrome blitzes or whatever I put on my drift car. And I'm like, is this the beginning of chrome being cool again?
Yeah.
Maybe it is.
So what's going to go out of fashion? Black wheels?
Oh God, black wheels are out regardless. I think matte colors are going to go out for a while. Yeah, I think they just have to. I mean, I still like matte colors in cars, but it's just been, I feel like it's been beaten to death, especially the Nardo sort of gray, the Audi VW, that kind of that primer flat gray that you see like every car have. Again, I'm a sucker for it. I still like it. I think it's cool, but it's just been beaten to death in the past like 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's fair. Especially with the wraps like becoming such a popular thing.
Yeah.
You can get whatever color you want now.
Yeah.
Have you seen the chrome wraps though? Speaking of chrome.
Yeah.
Those are pretty wild.
Hey, if you're going to do it, do it. You know what I mean? Yeah, go hard.
June 2nd, 1954, Volvo unveiled the prototype for its first sports car, the P1900. It wouldn't come to market until 1956. And while 68 P1900s left the factory between 1956 and 1957, only 67 VINs exist, which I thought was kind of funny because apparently they accidentally stamped 2 of the same one and slapped them on 2 different cars. Each one featured an inline-4 and a 3-speed manual transmission, and of those 68 cars that were built, about 50 are known. Their whereabouts are known today, which means there's still 18 out there waiting to be found or have been crushed. And I am such a sucker for automotive mystery stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yes. Also, good luck trying to explain that to the auction house that you have the same chassis number as the other car. Who's right? It's like the Spider-Man 2 memes, like when they're both pointing at each other. Like, who has the real Volvo here? It's funny.
You know, I've been trying to be better about describing cars to our listeners. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how to describe this thing. It's got like a open mouth grill sitting right between 2 headlights.
It looks like a carp.
There it is.
It looks like a cart.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we just fished this thing out of the river. Its eyes are wide. They're circular headlights. The mouth is a almost perfect circle-ish kind of vibe. Reddish, steely, sort of hubcappy looking wheels, which are actually also, once again, cool. Steelies are like the theme of the day.
Heck yeah.
The body is fairly simple. It's not a lot of lines. It's very rounded.
It's very round.
Long. This of course is a convertible. Small little short windshield, kind of ovaline glass. Chrome everywhere because that's, again, chrome is the thing.
It's like the original MGBs, but more round.
Yes, totally.
A little more bubbly.
Yeah. I think what I'm getting here is we need to modify our cars to be fully chrome and on steelies. I think that's really the moral of this episode.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, watch this happen. We're manifesting this, listeners. Chrome and steelies are coming back.
Chrome to the dome.
Yeah.
Let's go. Okay, June 2nd, 1990. Construction of the National Corvette Museum began. And I put this in here only because I wanted to ask, what other car model deserves its own museum?
I'm going to show my lack of knowledge here. I'm going to assume there's a Mustang museum somewhere.
I don't know if there is. But
that seems weird.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
And you know what would be the most boring, but I think ultimately in history will make sense? A Prius.
Oh my God.
A Prius museum. Such an iconic vehicle. Changed so much for so many people.
True.
I mean, would I pay the admission fee to go in there? Absolutely not. But it'd be nice to know it exists.
I mean, we're running on 25 years of that car's existence. And so there's a lot of model changes, a lot of technology changes, a lot of things that you can look at. That's a good one. I mean, I'm trying to look at cars that have been in production for a long time to give you a reason to go and like see its evolution, I guess.
The Bug. Although they I don't know, they haven't
changed that much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they've always looked kind of the same.
The longest running name, I think, right now, model name is Suburban, Chevy Suburban.
Okay.
Which came out in like the 30s or something.
Really?
Yeah. So that could be an interesting one.
Yeah, that's a good question.
For a single model. That's pretty tough.
Shout us out. What do you think?
Yeah.
Give us the National Blank Museum. What car deserves to have its own museum?
Toyota Camry.
There you go. Just the most boring museums, just everywhere.
The Civic. The Civic came out in like the 70s or late 60s or something like that. That could be a fun one.
Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Last on the list today, June 3rd, going all the way back to the 1800s, my favorite.
It's your favorite time.
Favorite time in automotive history. June 3rd, 1864, Ransom Eli Olds, the founder of Oldsmobile, is born. He founded Olds Motor Vehicle Company in 1897. He was a fairly innovative engineer, actually pioneering the assembly line for the auto industry. Of course, Henry Ford gets most of the credit for that, thanks to his moving assembly line operation. Ransom left the company he founded in 1905 after selling it, going on to establish the REO Motor Company. And that automaker would produce vehicles up until 1967. Following his death in, I think, 1950. But a lot of REO's later life was focused on building larger trucks and military vehicles. So shout out REO.
Speedwagon.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I wish we could have music on here.
I know. Yeah.
I don't want to pay the bill.
Yeah, it's true. We're cheap over here. Also, I'm going to start calling you Olds if you keep bringing up all these 1800s facts.
That's good with me. Call me Ransom. What a name, Ransom.
I know. Very cool. Cool abbreviation, cool name. Not a cool last name, but, you got to take what you can get.
Okay, we've come to a time when we have to unveil our worst cars. And I will say, we didn't get as many responses as perhaps I hoped.
Yes.
But enough to make a list.
Yes, thank you, dear readers. You give us 3 options of what is the car that you would doom your worst enemy to, and these were the answers we got. Brian, what was the first one?
Ford.
Just the brand.
Just the brand. No explanation, just Ford.
Gee, I wonder if this is a Chevy driver.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Next on the list, Toyota.
You guys are really digging deep for this.
Real creative answers over here.
Also, that seems like a not crowd fan favorite there. Like, what do you like? I feel like I've never heard anyone say Toyota is the car you would want to doom someone to.
Right.
It's like the car you would want to doom someone to in a good way. Like, hey, here's this amazing vehicle that's allegedly going to run forever. You're going to be fine. Just put oil in it.
Just do the maintenance. Drive forever. I guess you would give that to somebody who really wanted a fun car.
That's true. Yeah. It's like another level of sort of sneakiness here to doom them. Totally. And then number 3 is finally a little bit more pointed.
Yugo.
Okay. Now we're talking.
I can get down on that as a car that you would give to your enemy. Of course, we're talking about the Iron Curtain Yugo out of the Czech Republic from the, I think, late 1970s through the 80s and 90s even.
Basically just a sardine can on wheels, essentially.
Death trap.
Yeah.
Although a very cute death trap.
Yeah, it seems like a fun, ironic vehicle to own or drive. Maybe not own, maybe just drive.
Once or twice, yeah. Notoriously unreliable and perhaps a little less characteristic in the style department than you might wish.
Yeah. You know what? Yugos and Geo Metros to me are like the same vehicle in my head.
Yeah.
The concept is very similar.
Yeah. I mean, it was designed to just take you where you want to go without any thrills.
Where Brian and I are located, Bellingham, Washington, I feel like I've seen a handful of Geo Metros on the road being driven, like, ironically maybe, or seriously. Is this like a Bellingham thing, or do people still drive those cars around? Like, if you're a Geo Metro driver, are you just trying to keep that thing alive? Like, is it a historical, cool car?
50 miles per gallon.
That's true. Did know that.
3 cylinders.
Yeah.
Also, the Geo Trackers, I think, are making this little comeback.
Those are very cool. My neighbor has 2 of those parked in his front yard.
Same neighbor with the...
No, different neighbor.
Oh, man.
Yeah, not my Countach neighbor. By the way, I feel like I'm always talking about people in my neighborhood who have really cool cars, and I'm realizing that it's odd because there's nothing special about my neighborhood, but for some reason there's all these interesting car collectors around. So maybe I need to do some knocking on some doors.
Knocking. Give me your car.
I for real need to knock on that Countach guy's door, though. That's like a whole situation. Yeah, we need to find out what's going on. That's a mystery.
In other news, be sure to follow us. Be sure to listen to us, which I hope you're doing right now.
I hope so.
And please hit that share button and the subscribe buttons. We're really hitting our strides. We're growing. It's fun. We're enjoying it.
Yeah. I'd say so. I'm having a good time.
That's good.
Good. I hope you guys are too. Brian and I love doing this. Please like, comment, follow, subscribe. Send some snail mail to somebody telling them about this podcast. Do what you can do. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, if you have any questions, comments, send them to contact@carsandcopymedia.com or hit us up on Instagram at This Day in Automotive History or Facebook at This Day in Automotive History. Jordan's at Jordan B. Stead pretty much everywhere, and I'm Spare Change Multimedia because I haven't changed that in 45 years.
Well, why would you? Got to keep that screen name, that AOL screen name.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus, it's like linked in a bunch of places. It'd be such a pain.
Modern day issues.
So true. All right.
We appreciate y'all. See you next time.
Till then, drive history every day.
Bye.